At Jewelers Mutual, we're a little obsessed with jewelry. Obsessed like auctioneers with talking fast.
50, we're going to sold.
Pop stars with auto-tune.
Yeah.
And dentists with asking questions.
So, how did he propose?
After they've put their hands in your mouth.
Great.
Yes, we've made jewelry our obsession for over 100 years. We love it so much we named our kids Ruby, Amber, and Opal.
Venti soy latte for Opal?
At Jewelers Mutual, we insure jewelry and only jewelry, which is why people who are also obsessed with jewelry trust us with theirs.
Okay, it's the Mark Willard Show. We appreciate you being with us, and I always appreciate whenever I get a few minutes of this person's time. She's one of my absolute favorites, Lindsay Rhodes, who officially has too many titles. What do I call? I mean, honestly, with a podcast, DirecTV, SiriusXM, CBS, what do I do with you now?
Slash friend.
Okay, yeah, friend.
There you go.
Friend of mine,
go.
Lindsay Rhodes, is on the show. That's way cooler, isn't it?
Yes. Hi.
Hi, how are you? What's going on?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for this Monday night game, kind of, cooking some dinner and keeping an eye on the game. Lions up early.
Okay. You and I both have very, I feel like, you tell me, I feel like there are similar things going on within the home when there are football games, because I can hear dishes clinking, there are children, there's a football game, there's a professional who has the family understanding that, like, you need to watch this. How have you gone about navigating this? How does everybody get involved? What's it look like?
Yeah, so on games like this that are at night, I have my computer set up on the island while I'm cooking with the game on. And so that's kind of my way to tap out of being in charge of the kids during that time frame. Like, if I'm cooking, then I kind of am not responsible for anything else. I can keep an eye on the game. And then I have my stats up on the computer, and so I can track who's doing what. And yeah, but I've recently lured my son. I'm trying to get him, he's 7, and I'm trying to get him to be as into it as I would like him to be.
Okay.
And he's kind of at that age where he drops in and he gets really invested for short bursts, but he doesn't have the attention span to sit through an entire game, right? So we're co-managing one of my 9 fantasy teams this year so that I can kind of try and sell him on some stuff.
And how's he doing?
That team's not doing great,
okay.
But
okay.
But it's not his fault or anything like that.
Right.
It's not like I'm blaming him, Mark, but
now let me tell you this, because I sort of have it. It's gone the other way in this house, and I totally have no control over this anymore. But maybe it's also a way to handle that, as you put it, attention span to sit through a whole game.
Yeah.
My 7-year-old, if I even try to pull him away from Red Zone Channel for 5 minutes on a Sunday, I get a furious reaction. I mean, there's no getting dressed. They dance on the final countdown to kickoff until 10 a.m., and they don't want anyone to even speak to them until 4:30. It's unbelievable.
That's amazing. I love that.
I'm
That's
glad
wonderful.
that you love that.
Yeah.
Not everybody in my family loves that.
Oh, well, so I would be the person who would want to sit on that couch the entire day with said 7-year-old. So I would have no problem with that. I'd be like, gosh, I have to. Fine. I'll do this. I'll take him. You take her.
Parenting, yes. Very, very difficult on Sundays in the fall. All right. Hey, and I know, we're having this conversation in the middle of the game, so without really having a full idea of all of the information tonight, what's your take on all things Aaron Rodgers after the offseason and then the way it started last week?
I think that Aaron Rodgers, I think, so it's so cliche today to do the whole relax thing, right? But there's no chance that Aaron Rodgers is going to play like that for the rest of the season. He's just too good. I think they have too many weapons on that offense in particular. I don't know that I can say the same for the defense specifically, but they're just not going to play like that for the rest of the year. I have no doubt. And I understand the whole notion of like, well, it's very hard to be an NFL quarterback and you can't tap out and do Jeopardy and do all these other things and then expect you're going to waltz back in there. My guess is that Aaron Rodgers understands that as well as anyone, and that's not actually what happened. I don't think he probably tapped out completely,
Right.
So
right.
just because he was doing other things and it might look bad after week one, my guess is that that's not entirely what was happening on the field last week. So I am of the just chill out, give it a beat. Weird things happen at the beginning of the season, and I don't have any doubt that they're going to be in it at the end of the season.
Speaking of things happening on the field, we started our show off tonight talking about this taunting stuff, which is driving everybody bananas. And I know that I know that normally the league can't really get into stuff like this in terms of fixing it until the off season. But is there something that can be done here mid-season to stop this? Because it's making everybody go crazy.
Yes. Well, yeah, they could de-emphasize it, right? The fact that they are emphasizing it, however, is a thing. But what we've seen the league do in the past is kind of on the down low amongst themselves, just sort of say like, hey, maybe don't call all of those, So, and my guess is that that's probably what they'll do, because we were laughing yesterday on the Fantasy Zone channel on DirecTV, 704, Spend Your Sunday with Us, about the fact that it was like, oh, wait, too happy, whistle, flag for being happy. It was just absurd. But then obviously they also have made it clear, like, just don't look at the person. Don't direct that happiness, in quotes, at the person that is the opponent. So it is easy to avoid. Like, I do see that side of the argument. You don't have to stare at the person while you spike the ball. It just feels like, and I'm with everybody else, that it just goes a little bit too far. Like, it was absurd, some of those taunting penalties. The Chargers game in particular was just insane. But whatever. So I'm with you. I think that we'll probably see, because the outcry has been so one-sided, no one likes it. And so my guess is that you'll start seeing fewer whistles on stuff like that. But also the players could just adjust and celebrate while not staring down an opponent. I don't know.
Yeah, that doesn't seem likely. Lindsay Rhodes is with us. NFL Roadshow podcast, DirecTV, as she mentioned, SiriusXM Fantasy, CBS Sports as well. And, my friend, all of these things are all true.
Not in order of importance.
No, not for me, not as far as I'm concerned, no. But all of these things are very true. Lindsay Rhodes with us. Hey, are the Raiders good? What's your read?
Yeah, I don't know yet, okay? But I do feel like these first two wins are notable because I could have just as – like, you could see a scenario, Willard, where they start off 0-2, and we're sitting here still telling people, hey, don't worry, there's still reason for optimism because the schedule was bananas, right? Like, I mean, they're playing the Ravens, and they're crossing the country to play the Steelers. And so I could have envisioned a scenario where we were sitting here telling people to relax and don't freak out if they're 0-2. The fact that they took on both of those opponents and walked away 2-0 and did it in the manner that they did, I think that Raiders fans have reason to be excited right now. When I look at the roster, the thing that concerns me is that it doesn't impress me as constructed. Like, it doesn't jump off the page. It doesn't have to necessarily, though. If they can put all those pieces together, if Bryan Edwards can emerge as a weapon that they can use consistently, right? Doing what we've seen flashes. If he can flash like that on a more consistent basis, the fact that they got Ruggs involved, finally, holy moly, finally, like, this is what we've been waiting for. The fact that we saw it from Ruggs yesterday in the second half, after I think he was only targeted one time in the first half, and you're like, here we go again. But then the defense is making plays. So I don't know. I feel like the way that they're winning the games gives you a lot of reason for optimism. Now, one of the things that I think has been a problem for them in the last couple of years is that they played kind of over their heads early in the season, and then it collapsed at the end because it was easy to kind of look back and go, well, but they won some games that they kind of probably shouldn't have won because they were playing like they were, what's that called, like punching out of their weight class or whatever.
Right.
I shouldn't use analogies. Those fall flat. I don't know it. But but you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that they were as good as some of their wins early in the season last year. So that's what I'm waiting to see, is if they can win more of the, but those weren't two opponents they were supposed to beat, and they did. So got to give them a lot of credit.
They did, and they do it all in an AFC that's off to a really sort of surprising start. Like, we get the NFC. The West is good. The Rams look like people hoped they would. The 49ers are 2-0. Tom Brady.
At Jewelers Mutual, we're a little obsessed with jewelry. Obsessed like auctioneers with talking fast.
50, we're going to fit sold.
Pop stars with auto-tune.
Yeah.
And dentists with asking questions
So, how did he propose?
after they've put their hands in your mouth.
Great.
Yes, we've made jewelry our obsession for over 100 years. We love it so much we named our kids Ruby, Amber, and Opal.
Venti soy latte for Opal?
At Jewelers Mutual, we insure jewelry and only jewelry, which is why people who are also obsessed with jewelry trust us with theirs.
And Tampa Bay looks like you'd expect. But in the AFC, the Chiefs have a loss. The Ravens have a loss. The Bills have a loss. The Titans have a loss, and they almost have two losses. And there's the Raiders. The Steelers have a loss. Like, all the teams you would have thought are off to shaky starts. So how do you sort of handicap the AFC right now?
Oh, gosh, that's a really good question. I'm looking at the schedule from yesterday, and all of the teams here, just trying to figure out who jumps out at me. I think that Buffalo is going to be in it at the end. I mean, Kansas City, yes, they lost to the Ravens. They're going to be there at the end. They're such a good team. I like the Browns, too. I think that the Browns have a great roster. I don't think that they have any holes. And I think that they just need to somehow get healthy, right? Like, Jarvis Landry missing time while Odell Beckham Jr. is out is not great, right? Like, we're looking at, like, hey, Anthony Schwartz, third-round pick, go make some plays for us in the passing game. So that's not great, but their defense is awesome, and I love their coaching. I think I still trust some of the teams that we thought were going to be great coming into the season. I think KC, Baltimore, Buffalo, and Cleveland. I think that those are teams that are going to be there in the end as well. I haven't seen anything that makes me feel like I'm out on any of those squads yet.
And I wonder then, on the other side, are there some squads that have gotten off to maybe an eyebrow-raising start and you have some belief? I'm looking at, I guess the Raiders would be one of them. The Carolina Panthers would probably be
Denver.
another one. What's the pleasant surprise out there?
I think Carolina, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you have to touch on Carolina. I think Sam Darnold, the way that he's played out of the gate is very impressive. And I have not to pat myself on the back, but I'm going to. I have been saying all along, my frustration with the Sam Darnold criticism is that I'm not saying that any of it was inaccurate. In the sense that, like, he might be a bad quarterback, but I don't know it for sure because he hasn't had an opportunity to show us what he can do when things are good. You know, I mean, he's had awful coaching in New York. He had awful weapons. He had an awful line. And so I've been saying I was so excited to see what he could do in this situation just because we would get our answer. And I love for him that the answer, at least early on, looks like, hey, I can play in the NFL. So we'll see if he can keep it up. It's obviously very nice to play with Christian McCaffrey, but you could say that for a lot of people around the league. Like, it's very nice, period, to be a quarterback that has weapons. Like, duh.
Right.
So, but the coaching staff there in Carolina looks like they know what to do with them. And this week I kind of put like an asterisk next to it because the whole Saints situation is so weird. So I have no idea what I'm looking at with the Saints, with them being displaced, with them having all those coaches out because of COVID. I mean, the roster, I talked about the Raiders roster not jumping off the page at you. I mean, look at their offensive weapons. They have nobody out there at wide receiver that we know of to be a big play guy. So I think it's not so great when you have an Alvin Kamara line where he has 8 rushes for 5 yards. You know, like, that's not good. So
one of my fantasy teams really hated that, by the way.
Yeah, well, I don't know that it's almost like we need to reevaluate. I looked at the top 10 fantasy running backs from week 1 and week 2, and the only running back that is in the top 10 at that position in both weeks is Christian McCaffrey.
Yep.
there was an entire turnover of the other 9. And a lot of the names that are in the top 10 this week before the Monday night game are like J.D. McKissick and like James White and like, God, I mean, I literally said on my podcast last week, like, okay, J.D. McKissick isn't playable. Like I was talking about DFS and the fact that he was so close in price to Chase Edmonds. And I was like, he's priced like J.D. McKissick and he's not even playable. And then dude comes out and puts up like 20 points and makes me look so dumb. So
well, the running back position, the running back position is super fascinating. We talk about it a lot here because, I mean, my gosh, the 49ers in 2 games, they've already used like 7 or 8 different running backs, and that promises to change even further in week 3. And the production under Kyle Shanahan seemingly is pretty similar no matter who they throw out there. The whole position just feels sort of interchangeable and replaceable, and I don't know if that's good for stars.
I agree. And then you've got Zeke out there essentially getting paid millions of dollars to pass block, and Tony Pollard looking like he might even be a better back. And who knows if that will continue or if they'll start putting Zeke in some positions to pick up all those chunk yards. But I don't know. I agree with you. I think the Niners, what the Niners are able to do with seemingly whoever they sign off the street kind of looks to devalue the position, because I have no doubt they'll be fine next week.
Right.
But I don't know who that running back will be. I don't want any part of the San Francisco 49ers running backs in fantasy, just because I have no faith that it's going to be any one guy on a consistent basis. Like the fact that Trey Sermon was inactive, was everyone in the Bay Area shocked by that, or was that just?
Yes.
I mean,
no, that was week 1 with Brandon Ayuk benched and Trey Sermon inactive, everyone was like, "What? Wait a minute, what are we doing here?"
Yeah, I know. We thought we knew that Ayuk was a good player based on what we saw last year with our eyes, but I guess Shanahan hasn't been feeling it this year.
Yeah, no, I think he'll get back to it, but it's going to be slow and sure. Lindsay, back to cooking and parenting and football all at once. Thank you so much.
All of the above. Thank you very much. I'll get back to finding ways to look busy so that my kids will leave me alone.
At Jewelers Mutual, we're a little obsessed with jewelry. Obsessed like auctioneers with talking fast.
50, we're going to fit
pop stars with auto-tune. And dentists with asking questions.
So, how did he propose?
After they've put their hands in your mouth.
Great.
Yes, we've made jewelry our obsession for over 100 years. We love it so much we named our kids Ruby, Amber, and Opal.
Venti soy latte for Opal?
At Jewelers Mutual, we insure jewelry and only jewelry, which is why people who are also obsessed with jewelry trust us with theirs.